Hello, I'm Mia, your host, coming to you from Ocoee, Florida. I am the founder of Women of Culture 365. It's April, and we continue to celebrate Women's History Month 365. The title of this show is Women Glowing in the Southeast 2021, presented by Women of Culture 365 and KweliWorks. Let me introduce my guest co host, Lenny Burge. From Harlem, New York, he is Dean of Faculty and Students of KweliWorks and the author of the book, This Ease is the Cure.
Thank you, Mia. The theme of today's show is The Secrets of Mastering Self and the Game. This is the third webcast in a series of three. Now, we hope to do three things here in this show. Number one, we want to honor two outstanding women and their achievements. Number two, we want to share the secrets of their success and pay special attention to how this pertains to women of color here and in the diaspora.
This show is not only for women, we invite men to also join in this special celebration, Women Rising in 2021. So let's get started.
Okay, welcome to the continuation of Women's History Month for 2021. An ancient Chinese proverb reminds us that, quote, women hold up half the sky, end quote. Thus, we are excited to honor two outstanding women as our guests tonight, who've not only held their own, but succeeded by mastering themselves, by breaking barriers, and by going on to glow.
To glow is our term for achieving a greater level of wellness. Our featured glowing honorees are the Honorable Monique Worrell, Florida's Orange County State Attorney for the Ninth Judicial Circuit Court.
And also, we're waiting for the arrival of Lady D. She's a prominent media personality here, and hopefully we'll get her on. She was featured as Cool Magazine's 2021 cover story in the March, April, May 2021 issue. Now, in part two of this program, we're having a roundtable discussion of some things rarely taught in school. That is mastering the game. That is the game of life.
The reason for a women's program on mastering the game is that women who succeed must face different, special, and greater obstacles in the corporate world, the public sector, and in politics.
Yes, and sometimes even at home. Fortunately, women have special and exceptional qualities that allow you to succeed in spite of these challenges.
However, to succeed in any game, whether pleasure, life, or business, it is not enough to sharpen one skill set. One must also study and know the rules of the game. Let's begin with one of our most distinguished guests, the Honorable Monique Worrell, State Attorney of the Ninth Judicial Circuit Court of Florida. Lenny has this interview.
So, Attorney Worrell, this is truly an honor. Understand that you are the second African American state attorney for the state of Florida and the first of Caribbean descent. Is that true?
That is correct. Prior to my predecessor, the Honorable Aramis Ayala, there were no Black elected state attorneys in the entire state of Florida. So that makes me number two, and I share that number two seat with the Honorable Harold Pryor out of Broward County.
Well, that leads us right to our first question, because I'm sure being the first, being a woman of color, it's been a great challenge. Can you give us an example of a great challenge or two that you faced in rising to your success in general and in this particular role that you're playing now? And how did you overcome these challenges?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. It is truly an honor to be here with you this evening. You know, my race for state attorney was a seemingly insurmountable challenge. I was the underdog in the race for sure. I was the last candidate to enter the race. I was the only candidate who was not a traditional prosecutor, and I was the least known candidate. However, I was able to overcome that challenge because I was the most passionate candidate about the dire need for criminal justice reform in our community. That was my strength. And I overcame the challenge by relying on that passion, on relying on my strength, and on the destiny that God had ordained for me.
Well, now I'm sure that that kind of passion is like homegrown. I don't think anybody can really teach you that passion. But by the same token, I suppose you've also had some significant role models or mentors along the way. And if so, can you describe who and how it has helped you in your success?
You know, it's interesting that you started out by saying that that passion is homegrown, because the two most significant mentors in my life are my parents. My parents are immigrants to this country. They both came here from Jamaica in the 60s. They were both in their 20s, and they came here as hardworking individuals to build the American dream for their family. My mother, in particularly, is truly a pillar of strength. She went to school. She became a nurse. She elevated in her career to become a registered nurse. She worked night and day to ensure that we never needed or wanted for anything. She was also an entrepreneur. She engaged heavily in real estate transactions. And she worked 2 jobs to put me through college so that I would not have to rely on student loans. My mother is resilient, and she never gave up. She never took no for an answer. She always worked harder to find her way to yes. And it was her drive that inspired my tenacity and resilience as a woman and as a lawyer.
Well, you mentioned that word hardworking. That brings up sort of a boogaboo. Some people believe that it's okay to be a workaholic. Some people label hard work being a workaholic. And we know that in our community, sometimes Black people in general, but women in particular, have to be twice as skilled as a man in order to be accepted to be successful. So, in your experience, to what extent have you found this to be true, this dichotomy between hard work and being a workaholic?
You know, in my profession, the upper levels of the legal profession is very male driven. My predecessor is the first female elected to be state attorney in this district. And the majority of elected state attorneys across the state and across the nation are overwhelmingly male. And I don't think it has anything to do with work ethic. I don't think it has anything to do with skill or ability, as much as it has to do with the culture and societal norms. So yes, we must work hard. I work hard. I work several hours a day. My days mostly end after 8 o'clock at night. But I don't think that that is necessary in order to achieve this level of success. I think what is necessary is passion, is tenacity, is a resilience that will never give up and keep pushing until you reach your desired goal.
Okay. Would you also agree that, I don't know, for some people, maybe for you, maybe not, there is this desire to have some kind of work-life balance? For you personally, in light of the demands and the special circumstances that you face in particular, and maybe women face in general, how do you maintain work-life balance?
So I'll start by saying that I am a wife. I am a mother of 3 young boys, and I recognize that the work that I do is based on social justice, and family stability is a staple of social justice. So then how can I advocate for the stability of other families while ignoring the stability of my own family. Basically, my family comes first. Yes, I work hard, as I mentioned in the previous answer. I, work late hours and early mornings, but I carve out time for my family, and I work very hard at protecting that time as sacred. And I believe that that is essential to work-life balance. And I don't only do that for myself, but I also require that of my employees, that they have a work-life balance. Because, I was a professor at University of Florida for many years, and I used to instill in my students that, yes, it is important to get the job of your dreams. It is important to go after a job that inspires passion within you. But it is also important to find a job that you love, because a job is something that you will do for the majority of your life. We have 24 hours in each day, and your job is something that you'll spend many hours doing. So it's important to find something that you love. And I have done that. But I also love my family and understand that I have to share that space with them for practicing my profession that I love, but also focusing on the stability of my family, which I also love.
Yeah, I've noted. I have a very dear friend who's a judge in Atlanta, and she mentioned that word social justice a lot. But boy, did she get a lot of grief and was labeled, you know, as somebody who was a troublemaker simply because she believed in social justice. But in a way of speaking, that's sort of like a gift. Uh, do you feel there are any special gifts that are required to, or maybe that are unique to women to be successful in your career where social justice is such a key element?
So, the special gift, I believe, for what I do is a passion to serve the well-being of our community. This isn't something that's unique to women. However, I do believe that women are uniquely situated to be nurturers in a way that would inspire such a passion. For me, becoming state attorney is a dream that I never knew I had. I didn't build my life or my career around a political race or aspiration to become state attorney. However, I believe that my path was divinely designed to lead me to this place. If I look back over my career, every position that I have held has carefully prepared me and positioned me for this very moment in time. So my advice is to follow your passion, to do the things that you are inspired by, and to follow your destiny. And ultimately, it will lead you to a place of fulfillment in your career.
Interesting word you used, divine intervention or divine inspiration. Um, a lot of times there's confusion or disagreement about the role that religion or spirituality plays in your work. So when you say divinely inspired, how would you explain what you mean?
It's interesting because when I got on the campaign trail to become state attorney, like I said, it wasn't something that I had ever aspired to do. You have people who, they focus their career on some political office. I did not. I never aspired to be a politician. I did not ever see myself as a politician. However, my life was orchestrated in such a way that every position that I held was very important and vital to my preparation for my role as state attorney. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that that is a divine design, that the creator saw things that I could not see about where I needed to be to fulfill my purpose and my destiny on this earth. And I ultimately believe that that is why I'm here. As I mentioned earlier, I was the underdog in my race. When I got in the race, if I had $1 for every person who told me that I either could not win, would not be successful, was not qualified, could not do it, then I would have raised more money than all of my opponents did. However, what I did have was a passion for social justice, a passion for criminal justice reform, a passion for the betterment of our community. And it was that passion that drove me to the success and ultimately winning the campaign for state attorney. I don't believe that any of that is an accident, nor is it a coincidence. I believe that it was for such a time as this, that I would lead the state attorneys in this circuit for the reform that is needed to make our community whole, to build a more fair and equitable justice system. And I believe that is my assignment.
So that's very interesting, because you mentioned the word purpose, and you also mentioned the word political. And a lot of times it seems as if purpose in a broader sense goes out of the window and politics takes over. So we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about your perspectives, given some of the highly critical political and legal challenges of the day, especially in Florida, regarding things like voter suppression. So could you please comment on the legal challenges in regards to the voter suppression and the struggle of former felons and Blacks in general to exercise the right to vote?
Sure. I just want to start this answer off by saying I am so thankful and grateful for the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, Desmond Meade, and all of the individuals who are working with that organization to advocate on behalf of individuals who had been previously convicted of committing a crime and other individuals who are marginalized within our community. It is far past time for those individuals to have a voice, for someone to stand up for them and say, let my people vote. And it is so important that every individual in this society have a right to vote. And this is something that I had an opportunity to talk about ad nauseum on the campaign trail, but there really is no correlation between someone having committed a crime and that individual having an opportunity to have a voice in our community. In fact, it is those individuals who need a voice in the community about how things regarding the law and sanctions in the law are carried out. And I think it is a great injustice to deprive those individuals of having a voice in our community. And I support every measure to have their voices restored.
Is it true, Attorney, that many former felons, were prevented from voting because they had to pay fines, and maybe they didn't pay the fines, and they didn't even know the proper amounts of the fines? Was that problem ever solved in any way?
I am told that that is true. And the only resolution that I'm aware of to that is, as I mentioned, Desmond Meade and the Florida Restoration of Rights Coalition. They went all in to raise funds in order to pay fines and fees for many individuals who could not afford to do so. However, to your point, there were many individuals who were not able to find out what their fines and fees were. And because of their inability to find that out, they were unable to vote in this last election.
Yes, that's unfortunate. Well, thank you so much, Attorney Worrell. We're going to be coming back to you for our roundtable discussion, which will take place. In the meantime, our audience should know that there's more information about you and your accomplishments in the current issue of Quo magazine, which at some point in the program, Mia will talk to you more about. Now, moving on, we were supposed to have Lady D. We're still waiting for her. So why don't we go to you, Mia, and find out a little bit about your background. And because you're certainly one of our successful women of culture and courage and so forth, you are talking to one Caribbean sister and you're another Caribbean sister by way of Canada, I believe. So you've been around, I know you've spoken of 21 years and you've dealt with some pretty serious challenges. what do you credit your longevity to be in being able to sustain yourself and be successful in spite of those challenges?
Faith. Faith is number one. My spirituality, you know, runs strong, and my upbringing from my mother, very strict, you know, West Indian, Jamaican, you know, mother, old school, and just instilled so many values, and, you know, just, you know, eating healthy. And that, so I just stay, you know, within positivity and my faith. And I just believe that I can accomplish anything. And no matter, you know, being a 21-year breast cancer survivor, that is not going to stop me from accomplishing, you know, anything that my mind can conceive. I'm going to achieve it.
Well, for a person who's a survivor, as you are, who's also a woman of color, and you're working in the field of wellness and health, what kind of obstacles would you say that you still face, and that women in general face in the kind of occupation that you have right now?
Um, you know, even with the pandemic right now, you know, women that are have underlying conditions, that is still a scary situation. But again, you know, we just have to educate ourselves and know our family history, and just take the, you know, the precautions to, you know, keep yourself healthy, you know, keep up with your annual checkups, you know, with your doctor, and just eat the right foods and stay as healthy as you can. And again, just educate yourself.
Now, some people believe that since you're in the field of wellness and holistic health, some people believe that you have to sort of be a chemist in order to so-called eat right. So, what's been your secret to being able to handle that successfully, and maintain a balance in terms of being able to be more knowledgeable about health and wellness, but at the same time, it not becoming a fetish or, something like that?
I do a lot of research, you know, and I also talk with, you know, those that, you know, are expertise in that field, and making sure that I'm, you know, eating the right foods, and, you know, the type of foods that help heal your body, healthy foods, nutrition. And also just again staying on top of my health condition, and know, you know, the plan A and the plan B, and, you know, the what ifs happen, so that when because I also deal with, you know, several chronic illness. So again, educating myself and just making sure that, you know, if I have a little slip and I have to go in the hospital, I know when I come out what I need to do to build back my immune system and just keep moving, you know.
Okay. Now, being a woman who some of your roots are in Jamaica, and from time to time that Jamaican accents come through,
Mm.
well, is it true that some women have been embarrassed or shunned just based upon where they come from, and but have now adapted to the American lifestyle? From your observation, has the culture they come from inspired America, or has America inspired the culture?
Well, let me go back to, you know, my mother, and growing up in Canada. In high school, I was always, you know, bullied and teased because I had this mix, you know, Jamaican Canadian accent. And I would cry. I'd go home and I'd cry. And even after that, when I moved to Pennsylvania, I went through the same thing again. And my mother, you know, always told me that, you know, be proud of who you are first. And for those that don't know where you're from or about your culture, you have to educate them. So that's what I've always did. And, you know, if I have the opportunity to, you know, through my woman of culture, that I've met several women that also went through the same thing, that they were scared to speak, you know, with their accent, you know, at work, you know, through business. And, you know, same thing I told them. I said, you know, be proud of your culture. we can speak with our beautiful accent professionally. And for those that don't understand, share your culture. So I think, for me being a Caribbean woman that is mixed with so many different cultures from, Jamaican, Canadian, um, Arabic, Indian, Costa Rican, Bangladesh, Indian, that I can relate to that and just, continue to just be proud and just love is the key thing is love who you are and love your
Now,
culture.
now I'm going to be a little devil's advocate here because you said love yourself, love your culture. But is it not true that a lot of women who look in the mirror, they don't like what they see? But I know you've had a lot to say about that, haven't you?
Oh yeah. Some of them what I call they're battling the beauty demon. That's what I call it. And again, if you don't have that self-love, because again, when I went through my time of, recovering from breast cancer, losing your hair and, your breast and stuff, I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. That just wasn't Mia. And I had to re-love the person I am, all the flaws, and, get to that point. And once I learned to love that person, because no matter what obstacles or whatever, you lost your hair, whatever it is, you're still a woman, you're still a beautiful, and beauty comes from within, you know and that shines out. So when you show that love from within, that's what people see, that beauty within you.
Okay. Well, I know that you're a grandmother, I believe. You have children. You've battled
Mhm.
some very serious illnesses. You're publishing a magazine. You're putting on webcasts. How in the world do you juggle all of these things? And could you, share some secrets of wisdom for our audience as to things they can do? Again, we spoke earlier with Attorney Wall about work-life balance, and she
Mhm.
mentioned some of the same things. How do you approach that?
Well, one is balance, and my three things that to maintain that is mental health, which is keeping my positive mindset, setting boundaries that I don't allow negative things, negative people to enter in that. Also, wellness diet. Again, I eat healthy foods to heal my body, to give me that energy, to have me, keep doing what I'm doing. Because, I am, I do things 365, I not stop. And also, spiritual health is so important because at the end of the day, finding peace within you and finding that time to, having that spiritual connection with, with God or whoever it may be, that, you can sit quiet and just listen to some wisdom or just to reflect, because, whatever might have happened during the day that, hey, I didn't get to do this or something went wrong, the next day, hey, let me see how I can correct it and move forward. But again, those things of, positivity and eating healthy and having that peace of mind within you.
Okay, and earlier we spoke with Attorney Worrell about the mentors, but it makes me think about in this field of holistic health, there's a lot of need for, you're a life coach too, I believe.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
uh, you know, don't a lot of people, not women necessarily in particular, have this sort of a biased or fearful view of counseling, coaching, therapy, and these kind of things? How, in your opinion, have you been able to get around that sort of resistance and be able to really work with people and help them?
Anyone that, I sit and I talk with, I let them know, because sometimes they have this, thought that, hey, I'm crazy, or if they feel they have to see a psychologist or a life coach, I'm crazy. And it's like, you're not. Sometimes you just need that, what I call that, that brain inside your brain to help you kind of sort things out. So, to make them feel comfortable, sometimes I share some of the things that I went through, and go from there, and just kind of like, what are you trying to accomplish? How can I get you on that journey to where you need to be, and setting, that structure for them. But you've got to make them feel comfortable and know that there is no wrong, and there's no judgment zone. I'm not judging you. We're just here to talk. I'm here to listen to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Bia. And thank you, Attorney Worrell, for some very outstanding information you've given us. Now we're going to move on to part 2 of our program, Mastering Self and the Game. I have the pleasure of moderating this round table. And we felt it was important to include this next segment to capture the collective wisdom of you, our guests, on secrets of success that's not always taught in schools. Now, some of these items we're going to bring up may seem trivial to people, but I trust in your answers, you're going to show our women in particular, because that's what we're focusing on, but men should know this too. You're going to show them it's a little more important than maybe you think it is. So once again, our distinguished roundtable today is Monique Worrell, Attorney Monique Worrell. She's Florida's Orange County State Attorney. And Ms. MEA Alman, who is the founder of Women of Culture. She's a publisher of KOOGE magazine, which hopefully we'll hear about later. And she's also a wellness coach, and she's a survivor. And I will be in on this. So let's begin. We've researched several topics that are critical for a woman to master in order to succeed above and beyond her level of professional expertise. Now, we put it that way because just like Mama and Papa told me, as a Black man, you got to be twice as good. You can't be half as good. And maybe as a Black woman, I suspect you got to be 3 times as good. Okay. So I'll be asking each of you a key question in certain areas, but either one of you can answer any of the questions, and please do. And we might even have some questions from the audience or comments, and we'll try to bring those to you also. Now, dress for success. Attorney Worrell, is there something that many women don't pay attention to when it comes to the need to dress for success?
Well, I can't really say that. I think that professional dress, the expectations of professional dress has changed tremendously over the years. I remember being a law professor and telling my, female students that it was, necessary for them to wear pantyhose to court. And now hardly anyone wears pantyhose to court anymore. So I think that those things are ever changing. I think that it is important, though, to understand that there is still a certain standard of professionalism. For instance, there are very few places that I will appear without a jacket on, because a jacket is a sign of professional dress. It is important that you dress for the situation that you're going to be in. If you're going to an interview, you need to have on a jacket. You need to have on a suit, pant, or skirt as a woman. You don't want to show up in jeans. You don't want to show up in a t-shirt, because many employers will perceive that informality as a lack of seriousness and a lack of respect for the position. So I think it's important to note that if you're going for a job interview, it doesn't matter what the interview is for, that you dress in a way that shows that you are serious and that you are above the rest of the candidates for whatever that position might be. So
I used to interview college students, including women, for jobs with the Fortune 500. And I always recognized Janate. I could smell it on some women, and some women came in with perfume. Would you say are there some definite no-nos as far as dress codes?
Is that question for me? Okay.
Yes, either one can answer, but it was specific for you, Attorney Worrell.
I'd say jeans. I'd say t-shirts. I'd say sneakers. I'd say loud smells. I, for one, am someone who is very smell sensitive. I don't wear perfumes personally unless they have a very light fragrance. So if you were to come and interview with me with a very loud smell, then it might be distracting from the content of whatever the interview is about. So I would say always dress professionally. Professionally includes a slacks or skirt with a jacket. Make sure that you are, dressed in a way that says that you're a professional and that you should be treated as such. So I would say no-nos are casual attire. Anything that would be considered to be revealing attire, those would be no-nos.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Mia, you mentioned, Attorney Worrell mentioned the divine, and you mentioned spirituality. But there's this debate sometimes between, well, what is spirituality and what is religion, and should religion have any place? How do you dealing with your clients who may come from different religions and spiritual perspectives? What role does that play in your success in the work that you do? And what kind of challenges, if you can give an example, any challenges you've encountered in that direction?
I haven't really, encountered any challenges when it comes to, spirituality. I basically have to respect that person. And one of my rules is sometimes I don't talk about religion, because that can be a very sticky, subject as well. But it's just, just respecting that person's, however they choose their spirituality and stuff. For me, it's, the base of foundation, and finding balance.
So you mentioned diet, mentioned exercise. Is there any specific things that you do in your life that you found as far as spirituality that has helped you significantly to deal with the challenges you faced and to do the work as a coach?
Meditation. Meditation, in the morning I do meditation. If sometimes throughout the day that, I feel overstressed or a little anxiety, again, I do meditation, just sitting for a moment and just, quiet myself. And I do it at night, because I want to make sure when I go to sleep at night that whatever those negative things that throughout the day, that they're gone and I'm at peace and, go to sleep.
Okay, so you mentioned that word peace, inner peace. Attorney Worrell, how would you say you maintain inner peace in dealing with all the challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis? I know when I was working with young college students, some of them thought when they would go work in that law firm or that kind of arena, oh, I'll check in at 9 and leave at 5. But inner peace, I suppose, helps you to deal with that rigorous work style and lifestyle. Could you speak a little bit about how you maintain inner peace?
It is a daily practice. It takes daily focus on doing so. Not only am I the CEO for all intents and purposes of the state attorney's office, but I mentioned earlier that I'm a wife and a mother of 3 boys. I cannot tell you how much practice it takes to maintain inner peace being a mom of 3 boys. They are 15, 7, and 4. So I have a teenager, a terrible teenager, and a terrible toddler all at the same time. So yes, it takes lots of practice. But like Mia, I meditate. I have, kept to a very strict exercise routine that I make sure that I get in every single morning because it helps me to make it through my day. I have, made sure to connect with my spirituality and lots of conversations with my husband to help to keep me sane. So that's how I try to focus on my inner peace.
So now you mentioned earlier about passion, and I even got a rush as you were talking, But now, is it not true that when women are in the workplace, passion may be labeled as pushy, especially if you're trying to get that raise to get what you're worth? How do you deal with that?
So, I've been in the legal field for 21 years now, and I have been very blessed to have been paid very well for all the work that I've done. But that has not come by being quiet and sitting on the sidelines. I can speak to not this position, because this position is my salary is statutory, so there was no negotiation for what I would be paid to be state attorney. But in the very position prior, I essentially was able to negotiate my way in $100,000 difference in salary. So I think it's really, really important that closed mouths don't get fed, and that you can accept what you were given, or you can advocate for what you believe that you're worth. And it doesn't come without cost. You may miss out, on a position, but you have to set the standard for what you believe that you're worth, and you have to advocate for that, and be willing to let the opportunity go if it doesn't meet the standard that you have set for yourself. And that's, true in the workforce, and that's true in relationships as well. You have to advocate for what you believe that you're worth. And if the individual on the other edge who's seeking you cannot provide you with what you have set the standard for what you're worth, then you have to be willing to let it go and wait until what you're worth comes along. Now, you have to be realistic about what you're worth, right? You have to be realistic about what you're worth. If you're going to demand 6 figures in a job, then you have to be able to have the experience and the education to back that up. But don't, sell yourself short. If you believe that you are worth it, and you have the background to substantiate that you are worth it, then you should not accept less than what you believe that you're worth.
Now, I can remember one woman who sort of fit the profile of the type of person you're talking about. Her name was Michelle Obama, but yet she was labeled an angry, emotional Black woman. Mia, have you ever been in that position where you've been labeled an angry, emotional Black woman? Because I know you're a go-getter. Have that ever happened to you?
Yeah, and again, as women, we have to work a little harder, and you just got to stand your ground. I mean, you don't have to talk loud, or, they call ghetto, you just have to act very professional, and, whatever your demand or trying to meet certain things, you have to, because again, no matter whether, and I think sometimes if you're quiet, then you might labeled as a pushover. If you're more outspoken and stern, then you get labeled as this angry Black woman. But it's not about that. We just, say what we mean, and we mean what we say, and we want to get the job done.
I would imagine that both of you have talked about meditation, exercise, inner peace. I imagine that helps to keep you in check when you feel like cussing someone out.
A lot of woosah.
Attorney Worrell, you've mentioned your 3 children, 3 sons. I'm surprised that the 7-year-old, he must be in middle school, because that's sometimes the toughest of all of them, the middle schoolers. Have you had to talk with your sons in terms of what they are going to face as young Black men growing up in their encounters with law enforcement? Have you had to have that talk with any of your sons?
Of course. They have such disparities in age, so the talk is different depending upon their age. But I remember when they see us, when the documentary When They See Us came out. And I wanted to ensure that my husband and I watched it with our 15-year-old so that we could watch it with him, process it with him, and discuss it with him so that he could understand and get clarity where he didn't understand exactly what it was that he was seeing. My 7-year-old is a very old soul. So although that is a conversation that might have been had much later with him, he's also been engaged, in the conversation. And with me being essentially the chief law enforcement officer in our community, it puts me in the box of law enforcement. So the conversation that I have with them is perhaps different than it would be had I not been the state attorney. But nonetheless, they are still Black boys in a society where that in and of itself is cause for reasonable suspicion. So yes, we've had the talk, and they understand what they need to do to come home safe.
Have you, Attorney Worrell, faced what the people call the blue wall in trying to carry out your duties?
That was not in the script. Sure. What I've come to understand is that there are two competing interests, and both believe that they are doing what is right. And it is important for us to find balance and to strike balance between those two sides. It is important for us to understand that no one is always wrong and no one is always right. That there are law enforcement officers out there who get up every day and come to work to serve their communities, and that they got into their profession for the same reason that I got into my profession, and that is to serve their communities. And that while there are indeed other law enforcement officers out there who do not do their job honorably and who do inflict violence upon communities, particularly communities of color, that is not the majority of them. And that while we do have to hold those who do accountable, we also have to recognize that that is not all, and it is not everyone, and it is not every time. In the same vein, I have asked of my partners in law enforcement to recognize that in order for us to get to a place of healing and trust between law enforcement and the community, they have to recognize that unless we unite in holding those bad actors accountable, there will forever be a mistrust between the community and law enforcement. And that is one of the things that I'm working very hard to bridge, is the gap between law enforcement and the community. Yeah,
no, myself and some of my colleagues, we come from the 60s and 70s when some of our most vociferous civil and human rights advocates, sometimes us, a lot of people called policemen pigs. And I've pointed out that in the city of New York, where I'm from, there might be at one time or another 40,000 policemen. And they certainly don't all act like pigs. So I appreciate your point about, that kind of balance. But I imagine that sometimes you get pushed from both sides to not be balanced and to take a stand one way or another, don't you?
Well, that's the very nature of my job. I receive pressure on all sides. And because I am unique in that I am a prosecutor who stood on the steps of City Hall with the protesters who protested against the violent murder of George Floyd, and also stand, before the community with law enforcement to protect and to serve. I am very uniquely situated, and I will receive pressure from both sides. And I know that because I knew that coming into this job. But I will stand with what is right, no matter what side he's on. And when a law enforcement officer is wrong, I will fight with the community to hold that officer accountable. And when a law enforcement officer is right, I will stand with law enforcement to protect the credibility of that officer. And I don't think I have to choose. The two are not mutually exclusive, and it can be both and.
Okay, well, I got one more question, and then I'm going to see if the two of you have any questions for each other. Mia, every job has its particular challenges. Attorney Worrell has pointed out some of hers. In your work as a publisher, as a newscaster, as a coach, a wellness coach, what would you say the greatest challenges are that you faced, and how do you overcome them? And give us an example if you can.
Wow. I don't know if I would really call them, challenges. I think, if I had to say, would be staying healthy, because again, I still deal with, some health conditions. So that is my biggest challenge. And I try my best to find time to rest and don't overwork myself, even though I love what I do. And it's just hard to, say no and stuff. So, but just incorporating that discipline and finding that time to just make sure that I stay well and still keep that inner peace, no matter what I'm dealing with.
So we have a few minutes left. Does either one of you have questions for each other or for myself before we close out?
I have a question for you, Lenny.
Please, come around. Yes.
When we speak of inner peace, how do you maintain inner peace in dealing with all that confronts you day by day?
You talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Well, you guys, you mentioned it. You said it. Meditation. I find that not only meditation, but I find inner peace by also doing an exhaustive study of the universality of religion in the sense of spirituality. And it gives me a great sense of peace knowing that if all these great religious giants on the planet were sitting at the table together, they would not be fighting each other like folks in the world are fighting each other. That gives me a sense of peace. But I would say meditation and the diet. I've been a vegetarian since 1973. I do yoga at least 5 times a week. So much of the things that you've talked about, those are the things that I employ. But I do want to reinforce what you guys said in terms of meditation, because a lot of people don't realize that meditation is what provides nourishment and food for your spirit. Okay, it's not enough to eat physical food. What kind of emotions are you eating? What kind of thoughts are you eating? What kind of ideas are you eating? And do you have a direct means of nourishing your spirit? Because after all, your spirit is what gives you life. So that's my attitude about it. And that's the basis of my work as a soul therapist, to help people become more conscious and to be more conscious myself of my thoughts, my words, and my deeds. Because in my work, I find that just being conscious alone. Here's the example I like to give. If you lived in a rat-infested and roach-infested ghetto and you went home and turned on the light, what would happen? They'd run. Better. Okay. So when you shine the light of your consciousness on the issues, the problems, the toxins in your environment, the toxins in your body, the toxins in your emotion, toxins in others, toxins in your thoughts, shining the light on them, if they're not fit to stay around, they will leave. But then again, going back to our little varmints, then you also shine that light on your apartment, right? You got dirty dishes around, you got food and crumbs on the floor, you got clutter. So we have to also be conscious of our environment that we live in. We have to be conscious of our habits and how we express our emotions and so forth. That's kind of how I face it. You have a question, Attorney Worrell?
I did not. I was going to say that I am so appreciative.
Or comment, yeah.
For having me here tonight, and that this has been a very rich discussion for which I'm very thankful.
And we're so thankful to having you here. I'm going to be visiting Florida, and I'll be looking for your name in the Sentinel. And both of you, yes?
I do have a question for State Attorney Monique Warren. Well, you know, we just got in March celebrating Women's History Month. This is a two-part question. What does Women History Month mean to you? And also, as women, how can we support each other and not tear each other down? And because, you know, this year's women have been rising. So the importance of the meaning of Women's History Month to you in terms of now what you have accomplished, making history, and also how do we, you know, keep supporting other women and being that support system so that they could also rise as well too to success.
You know, I think that Women's History Month is essentially celebrating our accomplishments as women, understanding that this society was not built for the success of women, and that there are women like my predecessor who broke glass ceilings, those women upon whose shoulders I stand, that have created opportunity after opportunity for those of us who have come after them. So I am so thankful for those who have come before me. But to your point about how do we tear each other down, how do we build each other up instead of tearing each other down? I think it's exactly that. We choose to build each other up. I've seen a meme lately that it says that a true woman can, you know, straighten her sister's crown without letting the whole world know, right? We all have areas that we need to improve. It is important for us to make our sisters better, but we don't have to do it publicly. We don't have to publicly criticize. We don't have to tear each other down in an effort to build ourselves up. We can rise together. We can correct privately so that we can come out publicly successful. And I believe that that is our strength and that is our power. Recognizing for me that I could not be where I am if it were not for the Honorable Aramis Ayala and for her who inspired her to be where she is, and giving homage to those who have come before us, but not forgetting to lend a hand to those who come behind us. If you see behind me, over my right shoulder is a picture, and you can probably see that it is a man reaching over a wall to grab the hand of another one. And the caption in the picture says, "He is heavy." And what that means is that when you get there, it is not enough for you to just get there, but that you must turn around and help someone else up behind you. And that when we stop the chain of others who will come. If that one person did not reach back, then that would stop those who are able to continue to come over that wall. So we must always reach back. We owe it to those behind us to do what those before us have done.
Well, thank you so much
Amen.
for that.
Amen.
And I want to now mention we have some people in the background who are really, it would not be possible for us to be here if they weren't doing their work. Brother KOOGE, Kweli, he's our producer and director, and our technical director, Bradley Kingston. We want to thank them. We want to thank the audience. We want to thank you, Attorney Worrell, and you, Mia, our host and guest. And you know, maybe you can let us know what you think of the. You can tell people about a little bit about the show before we close out, and the magazine. How can they get in touch with that? And also, Attorney Worrell, how can people who may need your services or want to write to your office, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. Well,
Okay.
individuals can reach me on my website at sao9.net. That's S as in state, A as in attorney, O as in office, 9 for Ninth Circuit, .net. And you can visit my website and all of our contact information is there.
Thank you so much. And Mia, how can people get in touch with you and learn more about your magazine and your work as a coach?
They can go on kuomagazine.com and you'll see all the magazine issues that I've published over
And
the 12 years. Also,
could you tell me?
women
Over.
that we have honored, Women of Culture 365, all our ribbons of survivors, and stay in touch with us. And if you'd love to be featured or you have a story to tell, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me at iamkuomagazine@gmail.com. And also, Lenny, thank you for being my guest co-host and moderator and my rest of my Kweli team.
So I got blanked out there for a moment, so I missed the last part. But we're going to thank you again for coming around and giving us your words of wisdom. And did you mention your monthly show called Glow, Mia?
Yes, my monthly Women of Culture Glow show is every third Tuesday of the month, and actually tomorrow is our show. We have our special guest, Ashley John, and she is the founder of Fit Life. She is a wellness coach and a personal trainer, and we're going to talk about the benefits of health and wellness through the power of glow.
Okay, so I think you want some. Did you mention that you want people to tune in? You got a show coming up?
Yeah, they can tune in again, and I think we're going to put the little commercial up there to where they can log on. Again, it's on Women of Culture, and culture is spelled with a K. 365 Facebook page, and we're live again every month, every third Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Okay, unless there's any more to say, thank you very much again. And hopefully, we can, as you progress in your job, Attorney Mark Warren, you can come back and share some more with us as to how things are going. And you too, Mia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you, Attorney Mooney Bourne, for being our special guest.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Night, everyone, for tuning in.
And good night from the village of Harlem.
And from Ocoee, Florida, I'm Mia Ullman.
And I'm Leonard Berg.
Women of Culture 365 presents Glow, a greater level of wellness. With your co-host, Mia Ullman, founder of Women of Culture 365 and Glow, a certified life, health, and nutrition coach. Sophia Green, producer and host of the Sophie G Radio Show, bringing you words of wisdom. Don Hewitt, certified holistic health coach on how to treat the whole body. And Lady Q, founder of Sisters of Faith and Pink 360, an evangelist and certified life purpose coach, bringing you spiritual advice. Join us as we go Facebook Live every third Tuesday at 7 p.m. to talk about the mind, body, and soul, a conversation you do not want to miss. Please bring your questions as you discover the power of your glow.
This is your girl Sophie G, your real sister from the Sophie G Show. And on this week's episode of Glow, our special guest is Ashley John, founder of Fit Life. She's a wellness coach and a personal trainer.